Hello, my name is Deron Cohen. I'm an artist and art teacher here in San Diego. Over the past few years, I provided painting lessons in the Liberty Center at the Naval Medical Center there in Balboa Park here in San Diego. And that's been great. I would much rather see you in person, but I'm so glad that I've been asked to do these lessons online and provide them for you on video uh, due to the pandemic that we're all dealing with. So I feel really lucky to be able to do that. I think we're going to have still a great time. It's a great way to work still because you can rewind, you can pause, you can always stop things at wherever time you want and pick them up again right where you left off. So you don't have to worry about trying to keep up with me. In fact, there will be moments during the lesson where I will specifically say that, hey, if you need to catch up, this is a good time to pause, and then we'll, when you're comfortable moving on, you can unpause and join me as I continue on to the next part. This is happening in my home, so I apologize if things are a little bit casual around here. If there are crazy sounds that come from the background, I mean, I know probably you can hear the low hum of a fan. It's been very warm recently here in San Diego, so I hope that you will bear with that, and I apologize if that's a big problem, but I did check everything. It seems like this video is going to work out nicely. I've got my setup here. This is a good time where I would put on music, inspiring music. Everybody has their own thing that they like, so I encourage you to put on some music that inspires you and makes you want to be creative. And let go of your expectations of what you think the painting is going to be, and instead just get into the mindset you had when you were a little kid and you just were playing with colors, making shapes, mixing things and seeing how things turned out, kind of more experimentation and fun. Get into that mindset. Don't worry so much about the end result, and we're going to have a really good time with it. Have that in the back of your mind, that we're just here to have a good time. I would think this is going to take probably a couple hours. I'm using a 16 by 20 canvas that you can see right here. The image will be provided for you. It's either a link or else perhaps they are providing printouts of it. In one way or another, I'm confident that you will have the image that we're working from, this beautiful beach scene. Why don't I show you how things are rolling over here? So, all right, here we go. So I've got my canvas is here. Over here, I've got my image that I'm going to be working from, which is the same image that you're going to have. And it's the right aspect ratio for this particular image. You can see I've got a full spectrum of colors, my primaries and secondaries, and then I've got my neutrals, white, brown, and black. I have a paper towel. I've got 5 different size brushes. I just sort of name them by how big they are. So my biggest flat brush will be brush number 5, and then we've got brush number 4, and then we've got brush number 3, brush number 2, and brush number 1. So I think probably brush number 2 is a 1/4 inch. Brush number 3 looks like maybe 1/2 inch. Brush number 4 looks like probably 3/4 of an inch, and then brush number 5 looks like a maybe 1 inch or maybe even a little more. And then brush number 1 is like a nice detail brush. So we've got that. We've got our container of water, which we're going to use to clean our brushes and also as a thinner for the paint. These are acrylic paints, so they definitely do stain. If you need to wear an apron, or if you have a shirt or something that you don't care that much about, I think that's a real helpful thing to use as well. Okay, so when we start a painting, we start thin. So I'm going to use my big number 5 brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of divide my canvas a little bit. I've got this top part, which is brown, this blue, and again very thin, so you can see through it. And I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to start to lay in that nice transparent blue. You want it to be wet enough where you have a little bit of transparency and the paint moves nice and easy across the canvas. Not so wet that it's getting drippy. So I also need to create sort of the lower edge. So I can see about 1/3 of the way from the bottom is where it's going to start, and then it's going to stop kind of way up here. And then I'm just going to make this edge kind of like that. We can always change that a little bit, but I'm going to fill in this top area with this transparent blue. Think of the water as a thinner. Yes, it does thin out the paint, but it's also like a vehicle. It moves your pigment around the canvas. I like going thin to start because it's very easy to wipe off if you make a mistake. It's easy to wipe off a thin layer, more so than a thick layer of paint. It also dries very fast so that you can go on top of it with a new layer and you don't have to worry about the layers mixing. You can cover easily. So I'm kind of just eyeballing it, right? I'm not trying to get it any sort of perfect. Think of this as your ground layer where you're just getting rid of the white of the canvas. Okay, this is the idea. Maybe I can have it come down a little bit lower. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, the lower part, we're just going to do this kind of transparent brown color. So you can see I've got this nice sort of chocolatey brown, kind of a raw umber maybe, or raw sienna, I'm not sure. But again, nice and transparent. I'm going to bring it right up. Oh, one thing when you're using your colors nice and transparent like this, they can get a little splattery. So try not to splatter your paints, especially if you've got nice clean walls or if you're sitting next to somebody. You should probably be keeping your 6 feet of distance anyway, so hopefully you're not splattering anybody or anything that's important. Okay. I'm doing this right at my desk because, you know, the computer is right here and I can attach my camera to it, and it's a pretty good camera. It gives me a nice picture. And that's just easy. Oh, I'm supposed to turn on this light. Let's do that. Sorry about that. I meant to turn that on before. Boy, I hope I wasn't in the way of that at any point. No, I think it was okay. Sorry if I was in the way. Now I can see what I'm doing a little bit. Let's go back to here. So really, this is about getting the right shape on there, getting the shapes kind of close. We're not really that worried about getting our colors exactly right. As long as we can see these two big shapes, that's what we do, is we take this big rectangle that we have and we start dividing it up into the most basic shapes. So in this case, you've got the big blue area, which is our sky and our water, and then you have from the shoreline right up the beach. I'm already seeing maybe something that I just want to change a little bit up towards the top. So this is where you get to see how easy it is. If you want to make a change, I can take my paper towel, I'm just dipping it in a little bit of water here, and then I'm going to wipe off some of this brown here, and I'm going to have, I just want to make this part come up a little bit higher. Sometimes you got to let it dry just a bit, but let's see if we can go in there. Let that dry just for a minute. If you're not careful, sometimes what happens is you will end up picking the paint up with your brush instead of adding paint. Okay. Let's add that brown back in. I'll probably end up changing it again eventually. It's okay. Again, we're just trying to get it close. Okay. So from here, we can create our horizon. So now we're going to use maybe like a number, let's use a number 4 brush. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to take my blue and then mostly white. We need to be able to see it, but it is pretty light. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's see if we can see it here. It's going to be right around here. That looks good. And it's just going to come right across. Try and get it nice and even, right? Should be completely flat. And then what I'm going to do just for now is I'm just going to sort of blend this into what's already there so that there's no edge. And then to really see that difference, I'm going to put in my sky. And so the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to clean off my brush. And I'm going to take some white. So I just have some white on here. I'm going to come right along the horizon here. Again, we can tighten this up later. And you definitely want it to get a little bit more blue as you go up. Let's get a little more. I know I'm going to put a little landmass over there on the right-hand side, but since it's dark, I know that it'll be easy to cover up this area over here. So I'm just going to do a nice even job. And then what I'm doing now is I'm taking that other light blue that I made, And I'm just going to bring that up in here and let it kind of blend in. And you can see I'm getting thicker with my paint now. I'm not so worried about keeping it thin, especially since I know where I'm filling in. There's no surprise. I've made the mark. Maybe I'll go a little bluer right in here. Blend, blend, blend. If you ever feel like the dark color is overtaking the light one, that means there's too much of it on your brush. And what you can do is either wipe your brush off, or you can clean it off in your water. Whatever works for you. And just make sure. Oh, good. I'm still keeping things very visible for you. This is a good time, you know, if you feel like you want to take a little break and you know, or not take a break, but spend a little time catching up. If you want to pause things right now, this is a good time. Because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to roughly get the water in there, and then I'm going to start in on my beach, and then I'll come in and I'll lay in the landmass there. And then we'll be on our way. Then we'll start to sharpen things up and kind of make things a little bit more interesting. Maybe even make it better than our original. That's the one really good thing about having all this time to work. And you know, the bad part is I can't help you individually. I can't really come over to your painting and look at what you're doing and help you make adjustments to it. That is the downside. But the upside is you can see everything that I'm doing. You're right up on my image. You're not back away, you know, 15 feet. You can see every mark that I'm making, and you have a good source image that you can use as a reference. So you can do a lot of comparing. Okay, so I'm going to continue here. Let's come in and do some lights and darks in our ocean area. You can see in the image here that there's sort of this vanishing point somewhere out here where all these lines are going to converge, right? The furthest distance is way off towards the right. So that's as far as we can see, and of course our horizon as well, but it's definitely going off in that direction. So I think I'll be able to see some white on there. I'm just staying with my nice number 4 brush here, and you can see it's kind of over the horizon over here, and then it just goes kind of slightly below. Oops, I can see that the wave's actually cresting over here. So I'm just kind of wiping away a little bit. And it's going to, you know, keep on getting smaller and smaller. Kind of like that. All right. I'm going to do another one. It's going to start right around here. You can see again, I'm kind of using my knife edge, but I'm sort of swirling it. And then this one also gets smaller and smaller. Again, we're just really trying to get the shape. We're not so worried about getting the color exactly right. We can always go over this again. We got plenty of time. And let's remember why we're here, which is to enjoy ourselves. This is going to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. Okay. Let's get some darks. Those are our two main light areas in there. I know this plane in here is going to be nice and light, but I think it'll help us to get some dark shapes in there first. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to mix some colors. Let's do a little color theory here. So what you have are your primary colors. That's red and blue and yellow. Let's see if that's, yeah, you can read that. Red, blue, and yellow. And when you mix red and blue, you get purple. That's a secondary color. So the primary colors, you can't mix. You can't mix two colors together to get red. You can't mix two colors together to get yellow. You can't mix two colors together to get blue. You got to have those first. But when you mix the primaries, you do get these secondary colors. So blue and red makes purple. Red and yellow makes orange. And then blue and yellow makes green. So this is your color wheel here. All the other colors can be made by mixing these colors. These are the pure colors, so that is called a hue. So if I wanted like a turquoise color, that's between blue and green, so that would be somewhere in here. That would be a turquoise. If I wanted sort of a sun yellow, that would be kind of between orange and yellow, somewhere in here. So you can find the hue that you want through there. If you add white to a color, you get what's called a tint, and it lightens the color, makes it more pale. So for example, pink is a tint of red. That means if you add white to red, you end up with pink. If you add black to a color, it darkens the color and it gives what is called a shade. Now, colors that are across from each other on the color wheel, that's red and green, blue and orange, purple and yellow, those are called complementary colors, and what it means is that they are opposites, just like white and black are opposites. So if I put white next to black, my white is going to look more intensely white, and my black will look more intensely black because it creates a contrast. The same thing happens with complementary colors. So if I put blue next to orange, my blue will be more intensely blue, and my orange will be more intensely orange. So what happens when you mix complementary colors? Well, what happens when you mix white and black? You get you're taking these two extremes, something very bright and something dark, and you mix them together to get this middle color. So when you mix complementary colors, the same thing happens. You take these two intense colors and you mix them and you get this middle thing, which is brown, or like a gray brown. So if I want to create these darks that we see in the water, rather than using black, what I'm going to do is mix a little bit of orange with my blue, and that's going to darken it, and it's going to create an area that will be dark and very contrasty with the blue that's there because it's going to have orange in it. So let's give it a try. I'm going to use a smaller brush, this number 2 brush here, and you can see I'm taking a little bit of orange, and then I'm going to take some blue, and I still want it to read as blue. I don't want it to read as gray or brown. So it's going to be mostly blue, but with a little bit of orange added to it. And I feel like I have a pretty good deep color there, dark blue. And I can see it's going to come in right around here. And this is going to be the crest of a wave that has not broken yet. So I can see it kind of comes like this. And then there's a break. And then it comes again like this. And it gets smaller and smaller as it goes out towards the right. So here, it's kind of coming down and out like this. So I'm going to just lay it in, and then you can see it kind of splits here. Stays mainly dark, and then you've got this like underlying, you can see it's starting to flatten out. And then this just sort of becomes a part of what's going on over here. You can see there's going to be dark down here. This is going to sort of just like flatten out. You don't have to make this super dark. I mean, you want to be able to see it, but you don't have to get super thick with it yet. If you do find that it's a little fuzzy, the edges are fuzzy for your taste, add just a little bit of water to it. Especially if it's a warm, dry day, your paints are going to start to dry a little. And so to combat that, you just add a little water. Now here you can see we've pretty much gone horizontal with our marks. Little by little, we're going to build up the marks that we have here. This is going to kind of come in like this, and then smaller and smaller as it gets further away. Pretty flat right up through here. See, there's like a dark area that comes out from the shore right in there. You can see it's the darkest kind of in this lower left corner. So that's where I'm going to concentrate the most kind of marks. I'm going to give myself just a little white ridge edge there, which I don't even know if that's in the original one that we're looking at. It doesn't look like I did that, but we'll do it on this one, just leaving a little, there's like the shadow up in the front like this, but then we'll leave a little light area right next to it. As you can see, this kind of comes all the way. And we, will likely add some blacks to even darken our darkest areas. But I like to wait on the black until the very end, because then we know exactly where it goes. You always want to use your black kind of sparingly. And even transparently, because since black is the absence of all color, all light, if you're not careful, you can create dead areas in your paintings where all the light is just being absorbed into these areas and there's not a lot of light reflecting out. So complementary colors help a lot with that, because you can create a shadow with complementary colors and it's dark, but it's not so dark that it's absorbing all the light. Okay, so this is coming along pretty nice. I can see that there's going to be a dark edge here. Again, add a little bit of water when you need it. It will smooth out your brush stroke. You can see I'm just using the knife edge. We don't see the shadow on that side because this is like a three-dimensional, the water is above the beach here. It's like got this, it's got a little ripple to it. like that a little bit. All right, so again, this is like we've got it in a very basic kind of way. I think I will put some up here too, even though it's so far away. All right. So again, if you are falling behind and you need a little time to work, this is a good time to take a break or to pause what I'm doing and catch up to where I'm at. We're going to get into the beach next a little bit, and then we'll go back. We'll get our landmass up there, our little point, and then we will start to detail this thing. So we're doing great on time and everything else. This is feeling good. As we add in more texture there, that's going to come along nicely. It just takes time to build up the surface. All right, so now I'm going to move into my beach area, and you can see it's pretty light up towards the top, and then as we move down towards the bottom, it starts to get a little darker. And then also right up next to our water, you've got the wet area, and then you're going to have the shadow that's being cast by the front of the wave because the light is coming from this upper left here. So here we go. Let's just start with just some brown right along here. And let's remember that it's going to be bigger towards the bottom. And then as we go up and to the right, it's going to get smaller and smaller. You know, use that knife edge of your brush if you need. And you know, if you feel like you need even more, if you ever find that you need a little more control, just use a smaller brush. So, you know, feel free to move down to your number 2 brush. I want this to be a little bit more of a slope, not just a straight down thing here. So let's see if I can just have that slant out a little bit, and like that. Okay. It's not perfect, but that's all right. It's not bad. So you can see in the painting that we're working from, that top area is almost white. Looks like it has maybe a little yellow and brown in it. So I'm using my number 3 brush. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, and then I'm going to just gently mix in a little bit of this brown. So you can see I'm doing it right here. I don't know, maybe just a touch of orange. A lot of white though. Let's start with that. I feel like maybe the orange got away from me, a little bit too much orange. Let's go more yellow. the type of thing where you can even, you know, you can decide, oh, I want to, to just add a little bit of yellow into the actual paint on my canvas if it's feeling like it needs it. You can kind of blend in this edge here a little bit. It doesn't have to be completely, like a line, a solid line. It can be more of a blend. All right. Now, if we wanted to, we could actually make that brown out of orange and blue. Let's just keep going with what we're doing. We got brown on the bottom, kind of coming in like this. What I'll do is I'll stick this right on the edge like that. And you can see all my strokes kind of go up diagonal towards that upper right. And it's going to be the same type of thing with the beach as it is with our water, where we're going to build up our surface little by little. We'll build up the texture. There really is a little bit more yellow in these browns down here. It's kind of a yellowy, golden brown. It's a little white added to it. You can see I'm not being like super neat. We want to stay nice and loose, and we want it to have a painterly kind of energy to it. And we want to create transition from this darker brown into these kind of golden browns up into our, white light area. And we can spread some of that light down into this darker area as well. And we'll refine it as we go. It's the great thing about painting is you just sort of start loose. You start as if you're looking through the viewfinder of a camera and everything is kind of out of focus, and then little by little you start to focus in and refine what you're doing. It's kind of light right up next to that dark, but then it does become more dark as we move down and to the right. Well, down and to the right and the left, I guess. So again, this is just like a mix of white and yellow and brown. make sure this is, yeah, that's looking pretty good on the screen, right? See if we can raise this just a touch. And maybe what I'll do also is I'll try to just zoom out just a little bit. There we go. All right. Let's go back to here. You can kind of regulate, how much of the light you bring down. You may decide that you want to kind of do yours a little bit differently, and that is great with me. What we're doing here is sort of creating a springboard for ourselves where we've got kind of a goal where we're trying to make it like this picture. But I mean, if you decide to blaze your own trail and do something different, I would be happy with that. I would love to know that you were inspired to take your own path and do something that was experimental and fun for you. So I'm going to try to get mine as close as I can to the original. Probably will try to make it even better, try to improve it. That's one thing about doing this. Since I'm not doing it in front of people, there is a little bit less pressure for some reason. I guess it makes sense. But this is fun. We're not even halfway through. We're doing great on time. Hopefully you're able to figure out good times to sort of stop and catch up. It's a bit of a meditation when you paint, because ultimately it's putting you right into the present tense, hopefully, right? You're not thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. You're not thinking about what you're going to do tonight or what you're doing later today. All you're thinking about is making this painting, and then what does this painting need in order to make it better? How can I improve? And, when it's loose like this, then there's more to improve, and you're making big changes. But later on, as we get to a more finished state, you're going to be making much smaller moves, smaller decisions that are going to affect your painting a little bit less, because you don't want to mess up the parts that you like. You want to keep those parts. So I'm kind of doing this in little squares, right? I'm just using the flat of my brush, and I'm making short strokes that kind of lead your eye back. So I feel pretty good about where our beach is for now, right? We're going to continue to work on these things. What I want to do next is get our landmass in there. So I think what I'll do is I'll go move down to a number 2 brush. You can see the very end of our land doesn't even quite go to halfway. I'm just going to use purple to start. And so we'll go to about here. And I need to make a nice flat line right here. Okay. Kind of comes up once. And then it comes up twice. And then it comes up a third time. Just like that. There we go. Okay, so again, this is a good place to stop, or a good place for you to pause me and catch up, finish your beach, or get it to a good point. And then same thing with your land mass back here. You can see I'm just wiping a little bit at the bottom, just making that as flat as I can, with the idea that I can go back in there when I do my water, which I'm going to do real soon. Let's see. Just getting my detail brush. All right, so that seems pretty good to me. Okay. There are kids yelling outside. Let me just close the door here. Okay, that's a little bit less distracting for me. All right, now I feel like my blue sky is pretty good. I wouldn't mind adding a little bit of green to my blue for my my water, my ocean. So maybe what I'll do is let's go to our number 2 brush. So not our smallest, but second smallest. I'm going to take some blue mainly, and then let's just take a little bit of green and mix it in there. And then we need some white. Still reading is kind of green to me. Let's get a little more blue. Okay, so that's not so bad. Let's just start kind of filling in here. It's maybe a little bit dark, huh? There we go. That's pretty good. All right. Just keep on laying it in here. It doesn't have to be all exactly the same color, you know. And once we have it in, we can also adjust our colors right on the canvas. Some of this seems a little, maybe too white. Got to mix a little more of this color. Okay. A little more blue. A little more blue going. You know, the day that I originally painted it, I maybe was in a more blue mood. Today I feel a little more turquoisey. Neither one is incorrect. It's just what you like and what you like at that moment, right? We're always trying to make it better, always trying to improve our creations. And you can see how my surface is starting to build up a little bit more. You know, there's a lot, very light up through here. Lots of light up through here. Don't forget to add water occasionally. It does help make your blends happen. It helps move your paint. Let's get a little bit lighter back in here. And again, you can see I'm not really being too neat about it. I'm starting to let it get a little thicker, you know. I'm trying to really get the feeling of the water. like how this is, there's this plane which is sort of swooping up, but then there's this plane which is nice and flat here. Add a little bit of water. A little too much. A little too much. We got to spread that out. You can already see that we're going to have to make our sort of foamy white areas a little bit more white. Let's see, I kind of liked how this was. A little bit of a darker color here. Looks more like a wave kind of crashing over. Okay. Let's get that white in there. Still with that number 2 brush now. We're going to get more kind of detail. Let's just create a little light edge there. And then again, I'm using that knife edge. All right. Hopefully yours is turning out nicely. I'm pretty happy with how this one's going. Again, I'll probably hit those areas with white again, once I have everything else kind of laid in there. But they're getting a little bit lost back in there. Okay. Now I'm going to start to bring in those darks again. So that's the blue plus a little bit of orange. A little thicker now. really dense over here in the lower left, becoming less dense and more horizontal. As we come up, I guess this is like pretty horizontal through here. Don't forget to add a little bit of water if it needs it. All right. Okay. All right. So now, let's see, we got to add some shadow up here. Make sure it looks blue. Okay. Then I think I need sort of a middle color. So let's go like blue mainly with just a little bit of white. I'm actually mixing a little bit of that turquoisey color in with it. Yeah. Maybe add a little bit of water, huh? So this is, again, that middle color. And then that's going to blend into lighter colors. Okay, let's figure out this more light color. It's going to be a lot of white. Start again. A lot of white. And then some blue. And then just a little bit of green. That's pretty good. Adding a little water. This color right here. Let's see. Yeah. Kind of similar. Again, nice and sort of horizontal. And you can let some of the other whatever was there show through. Like, there's no problem with that. We like to kind of see all the different layers. And it helps to kind of create the movement that we're seeking in our water. Okay, let's take this color, and we're going to add it back in here. Okay, and then we'll do the next area back in here. That's just looking better and better. Just like I said, we keep on adding in these layers, and little by little we start to refine our image, especially as we use smaller brushes. That enables us to refine our image because we're making smaller marks. So this is looking pretty good. This would be a good spot to pause me and to continue on and catch up. We will go into our water again, but I want to get into our beach one more time. I think I'm going to use a number 3 brush. So that's this one, 1/2 inch. And let's see, I think it's going to get a little more white for myself. And I need to lighten up some of what's going on back in here. Again, not afraid to let what's underneath show. Just trying to get it a little more the way I want it. This is a little different than the original. The coastline is not quite the same, but that's okay. Just make sure everything's looking pretty good there. Not bad. Okay. Definitely feel like I've got a little more light that needs to come down into my dark down here. My dark got a little dark. So let's see, we'll mix some more brown and yellow together. And then I'm going to add some white. Not really sure what kind of setup you might have where you are, but I can't recommend this highly enough. This is a great way to go. Just a little like desk easel, especially like I'm used to working on my porch, but on a hot day or on a rainy day, it's great to have an indoor option. So this is a good way to go. You can always look at visual references on your computer, which makes it easy, although you could just as easily do it with your phone. And we're doing pretty well here. Let's just bring in a little more light. I would say that our sand in San Diego is a little more gray than this. So we could do that. We can make it more gray. What I would do, since we're using this yellow and brown and white, is I would probably use a little bit of the complementary color of yellow, which we can see here. The complementary color of yellow across from it on the color wheel is purple. So if I add just a little bit of purple, I should get a kind of a graying. Let's try that. Oh, yeah. It does kind of gray it a little bit, and I like it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use my yellow, and I'm going to use purple, and I'm going to mix them. That right there is pretty nice. A little too much yellow though there. I do like using complementary colors. It's too much yellow, so I'm just going to bring some purple in there. got a more golden kind of vibe over here. Let's just get the water out of the way there. Uh-oh. Come on. Stay with me, guy. Where are we at here? Okay, that's looking good. You can see how I'm trying to create more transitions, right, where there's no real starting and stopping point of this light and this dark that kind of blend into each other. And that's one good thing about when you start going thicker is they will start to blend together. The different marks that you make will start to blend together and give you new colors, which can be very interesting to play with. Just adding in purple. I think I prefer it to the brown. I like the purple better. Okay, now I definitely need to add some light in. Okay, it's starting to happen a little bit better, I think. It's hard, man. It's a constant battle between light and dark, and you know, finally you get it to the point where your light is in there, but then suddenly you got to create a better blend, and it just, then suddenly you're adding your dark in again, then you got to add in your light in again. Constant back and forth. So I kind of took some of the yellows out. I sort of brought that purple in, which neutralized those yellows. But I don't mind that so much. I am feeling okay about that. I can always add a little more yellow back in. Okay, so I'm liking what's going on there. I am going to create this dark area again. So I'm going yellow with purple. I want it to be pretty dark, but way darker as you come in towards it. That's not going to be dark enough. Let's got a little bit of brown in there too. It does kind of lighten up on that edge though. Smaller brush, more control, right? Softening the edge. Okay. So now I want to get a lot darker. I'm going to take some black and mix it with my brown. So I got a dark brown. I don't want it to look black. I want it to look dark brown. And this I'm going to bring in right in here. Or dark purple, brown, whatever. Again, getting smaller as we go back. So I'm going to blend. You can see I'm being a lot more careful now. Just trying to get this to, look like it gets a little smaller as it goes back. All right. Next, I am going to take a little bit of black, just black. I'm going to come right up along this edge here. And I'm just going to make a line like a shadow right there. A little bigger towards the left. Getting smaller as you go up and towards the right. Add a little bit of water if you need to. Make it a little smoother. No black there, because that's hidden behind the little wave itself. And then it just fades out off to the right there. Add a little water to make it move. Take away the fuzziness. All right. Not too bad. Now, some other things that I would like to do. The purple in the background here are purple. Let's go with our number 2 brush. And I'm going to go purple. And I'm going to brown it out with a little bit of yellow. I still want it to read as purple, just a muddier version. That's the idea, just like that. Yes. And then the other thing I'm going to do is right at the base where the water meets the base of that, I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow. Just a touch of black that I'm mixing with that purple. That purpley, dark purple color that we just made. I'm just making another darker version of it with some black right at the horizon. Just like that. And then I'm wiping off the remaining black, and I just want to take that top edge of my black and blend it into what's there. Just like that. Again, if you spread that black too far, it just means you have too much black on your brush. So wipe it off. There we go. I'm even thinking maybe what I'll do is add a little bit of white to the very edge. So I'm actually going to mix it in with my purple to create kind of a light purple. And then I'm just going to come along this edge here. And blend it in. There. I like. Okay. We're doing pretty well here. I think we will finish this in probably a half hour or so. So if you need to catch up, this is a good time. Pause me, catch up. We're going to get back into our sky again. We're going to get back into our water one more time. Maybe we'll create some shadows. We'll create probably a little bit of a lighter area. The paint dries a little darker than I had anticipated it would. So I think we need to lighten up our lights. And we need to come in here and put some more darks in. We might even add a little bit of black into our darkest areas in the water. And then we'll maybe do one more go around on our beach. But our beach is not looking too shabby right now. Everything's looking pretty good. I like what's happening with this piece. It's very true to the original. So let me just glance. Yeah, I think that's looking really pretty good. Okay. Sky. Now it's really up to you. You can tell in the original that maybe it gets a little bluer towards the top, not quite as light as it currently is. So I'm just going to take a little bit along the top here. I'm using a number 2 brush. Don't forget to add a little bit of water. mean, my paints have been sitting out now for an hour and a half, so they're going to definitely dry on a hot day. Hopefully you can see this is no problem to just add this dark in at the top and then sort of blend it down into what's already there. If you want to, you could add clouds in the sky. If you wanted to, you could do more of like a sunset sky. There's no, right or wrong way to handle this piece. You could put little buildings on our little purple point there if you wanted, a lighthouse or a pier or whatever. You really could go in a lot of different directions. You could add some seagulls. Again, I'm not scared to let my sky even look a little bit painterly, streaky. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. I can come in and make sure that my horizon is nice and light. Even white, I would say. White blends a little more easily. It really does blend the colors underneath it so nicely. Just want to really keep that nice and flat where it meets the horizon. Add a little bit of water just to help move the paint around a little bit more. There it goes. The harder I press down, the more you're going to see the brush stroke, which is fine if you want to create that kind of a texture. But if you want a nice smooth texture, then you just sort of lightly stroke, and you'll see less of a brush stroke, and it will then look more smooth. That looks pretty good in the sky. Now, back in my water, I definitely need to create a lighter area. Maybe this is the color. Get a little more green. It's maybe too green. A little more blue. All right, let's try it. this like big flat area, and here be the lightest. Let's add a little bit of water. Yeah, I like it. And really, that's the end result. That's what we want, is we just want to like what we're doing. We want to be engaged in what we're doing. We don't want to just be slapping paint around, not thinking about where it's going. We want to always have a really specific idea about where our marks go. All right, let's get a little bit of light going in here too. Don't forget to add a little water. I have to do it more and more often as we continue. Yeah. Ooh, not bad. Okay, let's get our darks again. So this is going to be our blue with orange. This is even a little bit bluer. It's pretty nice. I think it's okay to, add in some extra colors. I do want that darker blue though with the orange, so even darker. Still reading as blue, but really dark. There we go. Maybe even bluer than that. Okay, let's get a little water in there. Mix it up good. Or what? Okay. It's the right idea. And again, like, you can let what's underneath show through. Okay. smaller brush, detail brush now. Let's get those whites. Finally. Now I think what I'm going to do, I don't know if I did it in the original one or not, but in this white, like foamy water here, towards the bottom of it, I'm going to create a shadow. Okay, so let's see what that would look like. I'm thinking maybe like purple and blue together, or maybe purple and that dark blue that I made with my orange and blue. So I'm just adding some purple to that. And then I can't make it that dark. I gotta add some white to it. So you can see kind of this muddy, purpley color. So I'm going to bring it into the bottom, down in here. And then it just fades out off to the right there. Same thing, just along the bottom. Still letting some white still at the very bottom, some reflected light. Fades out. All right. We're doing great here. Okay. I can see that there's sort of this, there's some darks that come in here. One thing to remember is that artwork is meant to be seen from about 10 feet away, and we're pretty close to this, about 1.5 to 2 feet away. So it's not really a good way to give you sort of the proper perspective to see how your piece is, if you're succeeding or not. So you have a couple of different things you can do. You can step away from your canvas, give yourself some distance, 10 feet, and then look at it. Or if you just snap a picture with the camera on your phone and then look at it in your viewfinder, I think you will find that you get that 10 feet of distance, and it gives you a much better idea of what your piece really looks like. So now I'm just sort of creating these intermediate small ripples that happen all the way back, getting smaller and smaller as we go back. Bigger towards the front. I'm always trying to create sort of the movement of the water. You can see I'm sort of flattening out some of my strokes. I got a little too vertical over here. Vertical stuff to happen right around there. That's the idea. I think I still need more light down here. I know it's not there in the original, but I just think it deserves to have a little more light. Now that I've got a small brush, I can do these kind of small details in here. It's looking better and better. I think what I might do is add one more layer of lighter. So now I'm going even lighter than what I have. And I'm just going to kind of come in like this. Yeah, it's getting a little more painterly. We have the time, so we might as well really make our texture horizontals. It makes sense that that plane, that nice flat plane, would have the same sort of reflected lightness all throughout. Don't lose your darks though. Just took one out. Now it's just wherever you feel you need it, you know. Maybe we can create like a nice turquoisey color that's a little darker instead. So let's see. I've got my green. Here's my blue. Yeah, how about that? Sort of an intermediate color where our darks and our lights start to meet. I can sort of start to put this in. Oh yeah, I like what that's doing. Just touches of it here and there. Especially where you have like a middle tone meeting a light or a middle tone meeting a dark. That's where we can start to put these more turquoisey colors. Let's not forget to add a little water. Ah, sometimes it's just a little thick on the brush. So you can kind of wipe it and spread it around a little bit with some water. Constantly go back in with my light. All right, feeling pretty good about this. I'm liking it. All right. Just going to spend a little bit longer on it. Maybe I'll get into, I know what I need to do. Number one, I'm going to use my detail brush. I'm going to add a little black to that dark blue that I've been making with the orange and the blue. So it's going to look really dark. And I just want to have that in some of the darker little areas. Just a little bit up in here. It's pretty good. I can just add a little bit back in here and under here. All right, beach. So I want to add some black to my brown. And just a little darker at the bottom. Let's get that purple and yellow. Mix a little black in with that too. Okay, no darker than that. I don't know. Not going to get darker. I can definitely get lighter. Okay, let's go a little yellow. Yikes. A little bit careful in these tighter areas. A little bit of water to help blend. Got a little darker than I'd hoped. Okay, not so bad. That's looking pretty good. Just added a little bit of water. You can take paint from one area that's wet and move it to another area, which can be very helpful. So I got a little dark at the bottom. That happens. Like I said before, you do have this constant struggle between light and dark. And sometimes the light just overtakes it. Sometimes the dark overtakes. It's a difficult balance. But we search, we strive, we keep experimenting, keep moving paint around, playing with the color. So again, like I didn't go as golden with my beach, but that's mainly because in San Diego, our beaches are not yellow. They're kind of a gray, light gray, white. And so I'm liking where this is going. Let's just keep on trucking here. Let's add a little more yellow to it. All right. Again, let what's underneath show through a little bit. Let it be a transition, not total coverage. We certainly let our surfaces build on each other like we talked about at the beginning. I think that really happened. And we played with it quite a bit. So hopefully you found something that worked for you. You found a nice color, you know, if you decided to change the shape of the coastline, or if you decided that you wanted to, you wanted a more golden beach, then I hope you were able to sort of figure out how to make that happen, how to get the colors that you wanted, because I feel like we ran a pretty good gamut of colors in our beach. And then same thing with our ocean. I hope that you could have figured out how to make the ocean a little more green if you chose, or a little more brown or gray or white if you want a white beach. It's all good with me. There's no right answer. There's only what you like and what you don't like. So I concentrate on making things that I like. This is looking pretty good. I think I just need to get a little more light towards the bottom. And then I feel like we'll be kind of done. You can add a little bit of water if you want it to blend a little more. I feel like we've got a pretty good transition, and I like the texture that I'm getting on my beach. Just keep on mixing those colors. I just feel like I did get a little bit too dark at the bottom. All right. Well, I'm actually feeling pretty good about that. Let's just take a look here. Yeah. I think I even like it better. Let's see if I can make an adjustment and you guys can see me for a second. And I can say a proper goodbye. There I am. Okay, so I'm so glad that I got to do this. I hope I get to do some more, so you will get to see me again. We'll do a new type of painting. We'll figure out which one they would like me to do with you guys, and I'll get started on the next one. Please feel free to send me any feedback you might have. My email address is Deron, D-E-R-O-N, at Deron Cohen, DeronCohen.com. You can see all my artwork at DeronCohen.com. You can find me at Instagram at Deron Cohen as well. So please feel free to reach out. I always love hearing from students. Hope you enjoyed yourself, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot, and keep on painting.